Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Good evening and welcome to the July 30th edition of Black Authors Matter TV. It's also our 4th anniversary show. That's right. This show has been online live every Tuesday for 4 years tonight. So welcome to our anniversary. Yeah, and it went by so fast. I'm Gwen Richardson, your host for tonight, along with my co-host.
I'm Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, the 4 years, it's hard to believe it's been 4 years, but it has. It's been 4 years, over 650 guests, almost 200 episodes, and it's just been an amazing experience. And I hope you all have enjoyed it as much as we have. So
we've met some great people during the show.
Yes, some excellent guests. I mean, just amazing. And you all may have seen the photo of me and Rhonda. We were in New Orleans for the Black Librarians National Conference, and it was great. And we met some wonderful people, some of whom are going to be on future episodes of the show. So that was great. And I will only be on the show for a short time tonight. As you all know, I sing in the choir, and you all may have heard our Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee passed away, and her service is going to be at our church, and our choir is singing at the service. So we have rehearsal tonight. So I won't be on the whole show. I really wanted to for the 4th anniversary, but this was something that duty called. So we're going to bring on our first guest, and he's been on the show before. His books are among, at least one of his books is in my top 20 books of all time. And his name is Leonard. He's a national best-selling author. He's also a journalist. And his book, Freeman, if you haven't read it, it's in my top 20 of all time, and I've read thousands of books. So that
you were reading that book when we were in Philadelphia.
No, not that one. No, this book. I read this book. This book is at least 10 years old.
But no, weren't you reading one of Leonard's books while we were in Philadelphia, though? Or maybe you were just telling me about it.
Yes, I was, but it was The Last Thing You Remember. I think that's the title.
Okay,
that's the title, Leonard.
Surrender.
Surrender. Okay, The Last Thing You Surrender. That was the book I was reading in Philly 2 years ago. But no, Freeman is about 10 years old. Is that right, Leonard?
About 14. Came out in 2012.
Okay, so that one, 12 years, I guess.
Yeah.
That's in my top 20 of all time. And it was an amazing story. And you have a new book. And I have a copy of it.
Yay!
So you may have a copy. I haven't read it yet. My to-be-read shelf is so very extensive, but I bought it because I plan to read it. And for those of you all who, I didn't know you had won a Pulitzer Prize. Did you win it for one of your books?
No, I won it for commentary for my newspaper column back in 2004.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay, so this, you may recognize the image, and it's the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And yes, so this novel, he's going to tell us what it's all about. And welcome back to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you here.
Thank you. I'm always glad to talk about books, especially mine.
well, you know, it's good to toot your own horn, you know, and your writing is so solid.
Thank you. I spent enough time learning how to do it. I guess I hope I have figured one or two things out.
How long have you been a lover of writing?
Since I was 5 years old, so that's 61 years. Yeah.
Wow.
when I was 5, I told my mom that I was a writer. I was going to be a writer when I, professionally, and I started sending stuff to magazines when I was 12. So,
It's
very
interesting that you developed that type of relationship with writing at such a young age. Most people at 5 years old are wanting to play games. They're wanting to go outside. What was it that just made you love writing?
I don't know. I just like the idea of being able to tell stories and move people. I remember in 2nd grade, the teacher, she had an agreement with the class that if everybody behaved themselves, and at the end of class, Leonard would read one of his stories. And it's amazing when I think back on it. This wasn't considered punishment. This was like, this was a reward. So, it was great. I'd sit there, hands clasped, back straight, everybody let's behave because I want to read a story,
Oh,
Wow.
No, none of my teachers offered that for the class. But I did get to teach a couple of classes, when they would let a student teach. If they, the smart students got to teach a class, I got to do that a couple of times. And I did win some essay contests. So I was reading at 4, but I wasn't really writing stories yet. I didn't start doing that till maybe 2nd grade when I started. But you at 5, were you actually, what were your stories? Were they more like poems? Were they like
I wrote some poems.
Uh,
I wrote some poems. I wrote some stuff for church, but I wrote a lot of superhero stuff, about a boy with glasses who could fly and had super strength,
Okay.
that was my first major character.
Wow.
So it was really your love for reading that fed your love for writing.
Yeah, I was reading Marvel comics. That probably was a few years later, about 67. I was reading Beverly Cleary. I remember her very clearly, and H.A. Ray books, the Curious George books, all the stuff that kids were reading back then. Didn't have much use for Dick and Jane. I thought they were boring as heck, but
That was just classroom stuff. Nobody read that outside of class.
It's like, see Dick, run, Dick, run. Go away, Dick.
It was an elementary way to introduce people to reading with something.
I know.
That's what it was. But I hear you about things being boring when you're reading like 3 or 4 levels above your class.
Yeah.
It can be boring, and you have to try to entertain yourself doing something. And sometimes the teachers recognize that, and they'll continue to motivate you.
Well, I was lucky. I had pretty good teachers all along in terms of motivation. I remember in the 6th grade, the principal, actually, Miss Boring, which is a terrible name for an educator, but
her name was Miss Boring.
Her name was Mrs. Boring, G. Renee Boring. Wow. And God bless her if she's still around, if she's still with us. But G. Renee Boring at St. Peter Street Elementary School. After school, I was allowed to go into the office and use the typewriters. I think they were just coming out with the IBM Selectric typewriters back then. And then to use the mimeograph. That'll tell you how long ago this was. This wasn't Xerox. These were mimeograph machines. Yeah. And make cranking the machine.
The test for the test.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I was allowed to do that. So I had encouragement from teachers all along. I have a long list of teachers I could thank.
Yeah.
I don't know. I felt like when teachers found out that you could read, they always wanted you to read. They started bragging on you. They actually fed into you wanting to be more educated because they just felt that you were smart because you were a good reader. At least that's what happened to me when I was growing up. I mean, I almost felt like it was a flex because, some of the other students were reading a little slower. And then when it was my turn to read, I'm reading faster. And they say, oh, she's reading too fast. And I'm like, I thought I was just reading normal.
Yeah, I did that and then wondered why the boys all hated me.
Exactly.
But you're listening to them struggle along and, it takes them, it's painful and they're going real slow. And okay, Leonard, you read. You just pick up and you're zipping and you're reading with expression, as they used to say. And then people are staring at you and you're like, well, what did I do? That's how clueless I was, I'm just reading. Doesn't everybody do it like this?
Yeah. Do the students still read aloud in school?
I do not know. I'd have to ask one of my grandkids. That's a good question.
I wonder if they do, because that was a big thing. And everybody, in elementary school, there was no separation um, by academic level. Like everybody was in the same classroom. So there were some people who really couldn't hardly read at all.
Right.
The teachers still encouraged them. And then it was a wide range of skill sets for reading and for everything, because everybody was together. They didn't start separating for me. It was middle school when they started separating by academic level, but in elementary school everybody was together.
Yeah, I think I had that same experience. I was in school with kids who read well, and I was in school with kids who didn't read very well at all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was.
When did you first? What was your first book?
First novel. First novel.
First, yeah, I guess novel, but book.
Well, there's a lot of ways to define that. There's a lot of ways to define it. I did some quickie pay the rent celebrity bios back in the 70s that I used to try to disown, but now they're all on the internet. So I can't pretend I didn't do those.
What, did you ghostwrite them or
No, I wrote them. I wrote them, but they're like, you get a bunch of, it's the celebrity magazine Right On. I don't know if anybody remembers that. There's a black, I think they still exist actually. Their publishing company say they want a bio of the Jackson brothers, and they, so you take a bunch of clips and you take 2 weeks and you produce a story of the Jackson brothers, and so I did 4 or 5 of those, on various performers, and wasn't great literature, but it kept the lights on, which was what it was intended. So those are my
celebrity memoirs a little different back then, though.
Yeah, I guess, but again, these weren't so much memoirs. The celebrities had no participation in them. It was just me cranking out, here's Stevie Wonder, here's the story of your life. And I tried to make it good, but it could only be so good because it's based on, a bunch of newspaper clips and old interviews that he did.
Okay, so it's more like almost like an essay.
Kind of.
Long, extended essay.
You could say that, and they filled it out with a lot of pictures and, paid me a flat fee and called it a book. But those are my first. Then after that came Becoming Dad in 1998, which is part memoir, part meditation on African-American men and fatherhood. And then the first novel would have been in 2009, and that's called Before I Forget.
Okay, I read that one too, but I read it after I read Freeman.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. After Freeman, I wanted to read your other work.
Okay, well, I'm glad.
Must introduce me to your work, and I think I've read just about all the books.
The way Gwen talks about your books, it made me want to read your book, because I was like, okay, I've got to start reading Leonard's books, because the way Gwen doesn't talk about everybody's books.
No, I don't.
She talks about somebody's book, that means that she really liked it.
Well, good. I'm pleased. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm tough because I'm a writer and I'm an avid reader, and I know when somebody really is putting effort into their work, and it's not just a cookie cutter or formulaic. Your books aren't formulaic in that neither book is like the other. I mean, it's totally different story, but well written.
I do understand your point on that. I don't like formulaic books either. So if you're able to write a book where every book feels a little different, and even if you're writing about a similar subject, it still feels different from other books on that same subject. And it shows a lot about your style of writing.
Well, I don't want to bore myself, first of all. And, I'm very hard for me to impress because, as you were saying, I know all my tricks and all, so if I can surprise me, if I can impress me, then I feel pretty good. The one constant in my books is probably there's always an element of African-American history somewhere in there. But beyond that, the stories are all quite different. Grant Park is more of a political thriller. Freeman, I'd call a love story. So
Yes, it
yeah,
was.
yeah. So The Last Thing You Surrender is it's a bunch of things, but it's a war story, I guess, most of all, World War II story. So uh, I try to challenge myself. I want to do something different every time. I can't imagine doing the same thing the same way every time out. That sounds boring to me.
One
Well,
of our regular viewers just posted a comment. Curtis Steverson, he watches, a young man who watches the show almost
Uh,
every week. He said he just finished reading The Last Thing You Surrender this month, and it was a 5-star read. And he said, you are a fantastic storyteller.
well, thank you, Curtis. I appreciate that. A lot of people have trouble with The Last Thing You Surrender because it's if you look at even the reviews online, they all say something to the effect of emotionally brutal, but I'm glad I read it, or something to that effect, because it was, but I wanted to tell the truth. We're talking about the Second World War. We're talking about racial violence, and I didn't want to sugarcoat that because I felt like the people who actually went through it deserve better than me making a Disney version of their experiences.
Yeah, our book club read that book, and it got a very high rating from our book club.
I'm pleased to hear it. Thank you.
Yeah. So tell us about the new book, 54 Miles.
54 Miles takes the same characters from The Last Thing You Surrender, and it shoots them forward 20 years. So now we're in Alabama at the height of the voting rights campaign. The characters you'll remember from The Last Thing You Surrender, Thelma and George. Thelma and George have gotten married. He's a white minister, and she's a black. She's become a lawyer, and they're living in New York City. Their son Adam, who you met at the very end of The Last Thing You Surrender, has snuck off and gone back down to Alabama to join the voting rights campaign, and he gets beaten up on the Edmund Pettus Bridge and turns up missing. And this sets in motion a whole chain of events that reveals a family secret, a secret that's been kept from him, about that basically goes to the core of who he is and everything that he's ever thought that his family was and thought that he was. So it really kind of almost destroys the family, and it brings his father back down, George, back down to Selma. But it also brings Thelma back down, not to Selma, but to Mobile and Montgomery, to look for him. And for Thelma, this is a very difficult trip because she hates Alabama. She hates Alabama with a passion, and she hasn't been back in 20 years. The other major character is Luther, who is Thelma's brother. Having read the first book, you'll recall that when they were children, they saw their parents lynched at the front door. In a really horrific way. They saw their parents maimed, tortured, and then burned alive at the front door. Luther was 9, and Thelma was almost 3. So she can't remember it, and he can't forget it. And he sort of made a life for himself, sort of made a peace with himself, overcome the alcoholism that was a big feature of his life for the first 30 years or 20 years, whatever, of his life. And then he discovers in a nursing home, enfeebled and having had a stroke, the man who killed his parents, and the man who never was punished, got away with it, went to court, and the white jurors looked at the evidence, including pictures of the crime in progress, and deliberated about an hour and 15 minutes and said not guilty. So this man has escaped scot-free for 43 years, and all of a sudden Luther finds him in a nursing home. And so the question is, well, what does he do? What does Luther do? What does justice look like in that event? I wanted to kind of deal with this whole idea of the consequences for our actions, for the things that are done against us as African Americans, because I think that in real life, too often there aren't consequences for things that are done. But seems like there's always forgiveness from us as Black folk. When you see some young boy shot or young woman shot, unarmed by police, there's always forgiveness, and there's always the plea for peace. And I don't criticize that. I think one of the best things about my people is our faith and our belief in a better day and forgiveness and whatever. but I also believe that forgiveness does not preclude consequences.
Absolutely.
And I think, so I wanted to deal with that whole idea of consequences. This man has escaped consequences for 43 years. So, what should Luther do? What does Luther do when he finds him there in that nursing home, helpless, all by himself?
It's really interesting listening to this story. A good friend of my mother's is Linda Lowry, who was the youngest person on the Edmund Pettus Bridge that day.
Okay.
And she met her a few years ago. And listening to Miss Linda tell her story, she talks a lot about many of the people who waged violence on the people who were peacefully marching still living at in Selma today. They're still intermingling with each other. Some of those people, like Linda, see those people every day and remember what happened to them. And it made me wonder, like, what do people actually do? You may not be able to forgive them, but then how do you feel like you can move past what happened when you see these people every single day?
Especially when those people, at least some of them, have not repented of what they did.
Exactly.
Jim Clark, the sheriff at the time, lived until I think 2005, 2006, somewhere in there, and never expressed any remorse for what he did. As a matter of fact, he defended what he did until the day he died. And I'm sure that there are many others like that. Now, the mayor at the time, James Smitherman, he later changed his tune and was reelected with a strong Black vote. But a lot of the other people that participated in that, what did become of them? What do they think? And I dare to say that most of them, or many of them at least, in their secret hearts, feel like what they did was the right thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And they probably do feel that way within their heart of hearts, because they felt like they were standing up for something. I mean, not saying that they were right, but they felt like they were standing up for something. So when you believe something so fully and it's so ingrained in you that what we may see as evil, they think they're standing up for the good. And I don't know. And it's kind of a crazy situation. And that's not to say that I'm giving a pass to anybody who waged violence on anybody. Yeah, but it's just how do you find a middle ground with that?
Yeah, no, I mean, you talk about how convinced they are that they are right. And I forget which book I read this in, but it was in one of the books that I was reading to do research for 54 Miles. There's a passage where somebody tells this white lady that that Jesus would not, approve of your segregated church. And she said, I know, and Jesus would be wrong. So it's like,
now that is what you call believing something.
So, when that's if that's your mindset, what can I even say to you?
Right.
You're never be your own.
And one thing I noticed, and I could be wrong, maybe I just notice it more, but I don't notice it with other people. They always ask Black people, do you forgive the person who killed your family member? I don't hear them asking other people that question. And so, and why would you ask somebody that? A lot of times these people haven't even been buried yet. It's still raw, and a person, if they do eventually forgive, which is very difficult, it takes time. It takes years, if ever.
Yeah.
Right.
I think what people tend to forget is that Black people are only human, and we're treated in those moments as if we're not. I mean, by and large, we tend to be more, people of faith than the rest of the country. Black folks are more likely to go to church, more likely to report, believing in God, et cetera, et cetera. So I understand the forgiveness. Like I said, I'm not mad at forgiveness, but when that becomes the default, when you do something terrible and I'm just supposed to forgive you and never mind my feelings, never mind my humanity, never mind the fact that you deserve, that some consequences need to come down to you. Something's wrong with that picture. Something about that picture.
Even if I forgive, you still need to be punished.
Thank you. Thank you.
Exactly. I mean, I can forgive, but you still need to face the consequences of what you did. I
Yeah.
think that really came to head with the white police officer who I guess I don't know. I guess she went into the wrong apartment and saw this black man in what was her
Yeah.
apartment, but it was his apartment.
Yeah.
And she wound up killing him. And then his family all gave her this big love fest at the
sentencing.
trial.
Yeah.
I thought that was a bit much.
Yeah, I had trouble with that. I'm torn between I don't want to tell you how to grieve, because it's your brother, and so you do what you feel you need to do. I'm torn between that and that's a little bit soon for me to be embracing the woman who walked into my brother's apartment and killed him while he's peacefully, watching television and enjoying his place. That's a little bit
home.
In his own home. I mean, I don't have to hate you, I don't have to spit on you, but the whole thing about I'm going to hug you and heal you and cleanse you. Well, who's hugging me? Who's healing me? And who's cleansing me?
Yeah, I'd like to know where all of them are to this day. Does this lady keep in touch with them? Does she pay her pittance in any way toward this family? I'd like to know.
I may be wrong, and I'd have to double check, but I think I read somewhere that her lawyer is petitioning for a new trial. So, or for early release, because I think she got 10 years or something like that. Don't quote me, but I believe that something like that was
well, I'm going to believe you because you're a journalist.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah. Now your book seemed to pick a particular era or time in America, a particular span of time, and dig into it like very extensively by creating the characters and weaving in real events and facts.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a hallmark of your writing, which is to me which I love historical fiction. And so when a person is able to do that, and your books are page turners. Whenever I read one of your books, it was never boring, and I would be up late at night, and I couldn't stop until I finished. So
thank you.
And that's all. And this book isn't as thick as the other ones.
It isn't. I just write until the story is told.
Okay.
I never try to. I'm never trying to hit a specific length or work out. I think that was probably less shorter than The Last Thing You Surrender, but The Last Thing You Surrender is a very long book.
It is, but so was Freeman.
Yeah, Freeman. Freeman's pretty long too. Yeah, but I told my publisher once, okay, this book is coming in long, and he said, just tell the story you need to tell, and we'll figure out the rest of it, afterwards. So I tell the story I need to tell. And when the expression is when you're editing, cut out the boring part. So I tell the story and then let me cut out the boring parts, the stuff that's not working, and move the story along.
Okay, so are you working on another book at this time, or this is?
No, you always got to keep something in the hopper. I've got a novel. Actually, I'm just gonna finish editing it probably in the next day or two. It's called The Angry House. It's a haunted house story. It's set in the slavery era, the enslavement and Jim Crow era, and also in this era, and it's basically about a house that was a enslaved person's cabin, and has now been turned into a room in a luxury hotel. All the enslaved people's cabins have been converted so that they have jacuzzis and flat screen TV. I'm sorry.
I said that's crazy.
Yeah, well, they're doing that, but this particular cabin is sentient, and it's haunted by the things that it saw over those 200 years. So it's not really happy with what's been done to it, and so it's going to take some revenge.
So when is that slated to come out? Next year? Or
probably earliest will be next year, but I haven't even finished the editing, as I said, so that's up to the publisher. My job is to write them, and then they schedule them.
I love it. So now 54 miles.
Yes.
It's been about a week, right, since it was released?
Yeah, came out on, it's been, what is today, Tuesday? It's been exactly a
Mhm.
week. Yes.
Last
So
Tuesday.
how's the feedback been so far? Or do you keep up?
Getting really good reviews. I got a review from the Washington Post, which called it astonishing, which I've never had a book called astonishing. So that just really, warmed my heart. I'm getting very
Love
good
it.
reviews all the way around. I've yet to, I know I will at some point, but I am yet to see a negative review. Everything is 4 and 5 stars.
That's awesome. I wish we
Yeah.
could talk longer, but unfortunately, we've already reached the half-hour mark.
Hey, time flies.
It does, but we did put your website in the chat.
Okay.
Um, and I want everybody to go out and get this book. I'm getting it myself. I guess I might have to catch up with Gwen because she's read all of the books now.
Okay.
But I don't think she started on 54 miles yet, so maybe I can catch up with her.
Yeah, no, I
Okay.
haven't started yet. So,
Y'all
and
make sure to let me know what you think. Leave a review somewhere or something. I read all, unlike a lot of writers, I read all reviews. I love seeing what people think.
okay.
Awesome. We definitely will.
Yeah. All right.
All
All
right.
right. Well,
Have a
thank you
great
for being
day.
on the show. And you have a wonderful evening and congratulations on the success with the book.
Thank you for having me. Y'all take care.
You
You
too.
too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so before we bring on our next guest, I'm going to be exiting. As I said, I have choir rehearsal tonight because we're singing at Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee's funeral service on Thursday, and the rehearsal is tonight. But Rhonda, I wanted to tell you that Mary Evans, she's on. She
I
said if
talked to
you
Mary.
come, oh, you did. Okay. All right. Well, y'all have already communicated. So I know it's all good. I knew it would be great. So anyway, I will see you all, everybody, next week. Thank you for tuning in for our anniversary show.
Yep.
And thank
Sing
you all.
out your heart. Sing out your heart.
And I love you all. Is that right? Am I doing it right? Kind of, sort of. All right. I'll see you all.
All right. Bye, Gwen.
Hi, how are you, Dr. Rhonda? So great to see you.
It's great seeing you as well. And now, did I say your name correctly? Is it
Oh,
Damali?
perfect. Yeah, that was perfect.
Yay!
Anyone with all those degrees behind them will knows how to say Damali, I'm sure. I'm sure.
That's my quiet flex,
I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
Thank you. How are you tonight?
I am excellent. I've been going nonstop and I was so looking forward to this. So thanks for having me on.
Well, I'm glad to have you here and I'm looking forward to jumping into our interview.
Sounds good to me.
So before we get started, I like to always ask, tell us who Damali Peterman is.
Absolutely. I am let's see, I'm a mother, I'm a friend, I'm a sister. I am a person who believes in God. And all of the above. I am a lawyer, a mediator, I'm an educator, and I'm an author. That's me.
Love it. Now, speaking of authors, I'm looking at the books behind you, and
Yeah.
they look like books that I need to get into. I see one that's called Negotiating While Black, and I
Yes.
can't read all of the other one. It says, Be Who You Are. There we go. To Get What You Want.
Yeah.
Yes. So this is all about negotiation as well. So
Yes.
would you categorize yourself as a business author?
I think that I sit in two categories: in personal growth, which we all talk about as being self-help or personal improvement, and also a business author. 100% yes.
Awesome, awesome. So why did you feel that you wanted to talk about negotiating? Because I will say that often, especially as Black women, sometimes we hold back a little bit and we don't always advocate for ourselves. We advocate for everybody else. We advocate for our families, we advocate for our communities, but when it comes to advocating for ourselves, we're afraid. At least I'll speak for myself. Sometimes I don't like being called that self-promoter person. Or I don't like being called selfish, or I'm bragging on myself. So and I've been told those things when all I was doing was just telling people I had a book.
Yes,
And then often we're
am
told these things.
I understand exactly where you're coming from. The same thing has happened to me. And it's interesting, right? Because on the one hand, if you don't spread the word yourself, how can you expect others to, right?
Exactly.
On the other hand, these are not small accomplishments, right? These are things that take a lot of time, energy, effort, resources. And once it's done, how is that any different than any other piece of art, right? That we go see at a gallery. A book is a work of art in a bookstore or a library or wherever you may have it. And so to answer your question about why did I write this book and why, and talking specifically about women and Black women and people who may need to have that extra encouragement to negotiate, I'll say a couple of things. One, something that came up a lot was people feeling like they weren't good negotiators. And you said it. Oftentimes, especially if it's not socially or culturally acceptable, we may not want to negotiate for ourselves, but we negotiate and advocate for others. And that feels better sometimes because you aren't the beneficiary yourself, right? You're doing it for someone else and you see them and you're elevating them. And that's why we are considered to be, the super women, right? That's why we do run into the burning building when everyone is running out. But when it comes to negotiating specifically, because women were saying, I don't negotiate, or I don't like negotiating, or I'm not good at negotiating, because people were saying, I've read a lot of books on negotiations, but I still don't feel like I've mastered it. And for me, as someone who was negotiating cross-border transactions and negotiating for my children, for my family, for friends, and advising people on how to negotiate, I realized that there was just something missing in the literature that focused on negotiations, because the way that negotiations were taught in many books and also in all the courses that I've taken globally it was really a copy me method. You know what I mean, Dr. And it's like, I was successful doing it this way. If you do it this way, you too will be successful.
Right.
And how does that work? If we're not one size fits all people, how can there be a one size fits all approach? And how do people who encounter biases on a regular basis, because check, what box do you want to check? Women, economic differences, social, we can check any box that you want. And because these biases exist, especially subconscious or different types of cognitive biases, a one size fits all approach doesn't work for everyone. So how do we meet people where they are? How do we empower people and help them to see that negotiating isn't just business, right? It isn't just in a formal setting, but it's what you do when you're trying to figure out screen time with your kid. It's what you do if someone hits you in the back of your heel in the grocery store with their shopping cart, and you have to figure out how you're going to react in that minute. It's what you do when you're advocating for a friend, for an animal, for anyone that you advocate for. It's something that we do every day. We all have our superpowers. And how can we tap into that? Right? And see that we are negotiators. We negotiate every day, and we're probably better at it than we think. We just never have the right guides, right?
Yeah, and as you speak, I think of two things. One, coming from a place of fear, to where if I advocate too much, maybe I won't get the job, or
Yeah.
maybe they'll change their mind about giving me that position, or they
Right.
won't see me favorably. So sometimes it comes from that place of fear. But then there's that other part where we may be coming across as inauthentic because we may be using that copy me method, and we see it
Yeah.
worked for this man or it worked for this lady over here, so it's got to work for me too. So
Right.
when we do it, we don't seem as authentic because we're not coming from who we are. We're trying to do it the way so and so did it.
Yes, exactly. And that's the rub, right? Because there is something that feels disingenuous, something that's just slightly not right. And even if we all look the same, right, and try to use the same method, it wouldn't work because we all have different superpowers and snacks. And so it's exactly that bit of what feels inauthentic, trying to do something that worked for someone else. Just right now, it's Olympic season, right? You see different people compete in the same sports, the same
Yes.
categories, and they all do it different ways, and they're all the top in their country. They're all the best athletes. But you can literally watch. I was watching synchronized swimming yesterday, and it's amazing. Like watching every country come there and compete, and it's completely different, right? And they all have the same rules, the same guidelines, and you can sort of see if you apply that to just negotiations. When we're talking about fear, you're absolutely right. Oftentimes it's the fear of coming across the wrong way, the fear of asking for too much and maybe seeming like you're not happy with what's being offered to you, that prevent people from negotiating for more, right? That prevent people from saying, you know what, this is my shot. Why don't I just take it, right? I think that what I fear more than that is not asking the question. Sometimes we may realize in that interview process that it's not the right place for us. It's not the right job, right? Maybe this isn't the right fit. It's not the right fit for a variety of reasons. And one question you have to ask yourself is, do I feel comfortable being me? If my nature is one to be inquisitive and to ask questions, especially before that job offer, like before you get the job, that's when you have the most leverage. They're interviewing you because they're trying to fill a position and they think you have some of the prerequisite, if not all, skills. And then you're interviewing them too to see if they're the right fit and the right place for your skills. So oftentimes I feel like people see that they believe they're at a disadvantage when they're trying to enter into a new opportunity, a new job, or they're trying to have a lateral transfer or promotion without thinking about the fact that, there's a lot that you bring to the table. That push the fear aside, ask the question. That's when you have the most power, and knowledge is power. So you can learn a lot from the way they answer the questions.
There you go. Now, what are some of the tips that you share with women? I believe Be Who You Are is the first book. I mean, excuse me, the latest book, correct?
Well, actually, they're predominantly the same book. It's just that
Okay.
in the U.S. and North American rights were sold to Penguin Random House, and so the cover in North America is the one Negotiating While Black, the one that's here, and then the cover that's supposed to be distributed in several countries, about 72 or so, is this title because it doesn't translate the same way, right? So we know how that works, and it's also a different publisher in the UK. And so it's 99% the exact same book, which is a very interesting social experiment, right? To see what title people gravitate towards and why.
Have you gotten any evidence yet as to which one people are
Yes.
preferring?
I have. So I've been seeing that a lot of people, because with Negotiating While Black, that's my original title. Oftentimes, as you know, as an author, we're oftentimes asked to change our titles, right? So the book is purchased, and then there's some nice give and take where you can say, hey, I want to change the title, or the editor says they want to change the title. This title was very important to me. I wanted a lot of things to happen with this cover. One, I wanted to share our stories. I feel like there's so many books that make it clear that they're not intended for us and oftentimes very vague in their titles. And I wanted it to be clear that I'm talking about Negotiating While Black. I wanted people to look in and say, oh, I know I'm going to learn some stories or hear some stories, at least in part, about the Black experience. Two, I wanted it to be not just Negotiating While Black. I wanted it to be provocative so that people could also see themselves in that category of Black. So what I mean by that is sometimes I say in my mind, it's negotiating while blank, whatever box you check. So whether it's young, whether it's a woman, male, whether it's any other LGBTQIA plus family, whatever box you check, and recognizing that there's intersectionality. There's also some irony embedded into it too, because thinking about it, while Black, that's only one way that people show up in the world, right? There are many things, many boxes I check, right?
You're not a
So,
monolith.
exactly. And it's not a monolith. I say that probably on the third page in the book, that it's not a monolith. And so I just wanted to do different things. The subtitle, which is highlighted as the title in my international book, is Be Who You Are to Get What You Want. I wanted people to see that part of it too, to identify, to see if they identified with that. I want to be who I am and get what I want. I don't want to follow someone else's script.
Yes.
I'm not giving people scripts in this book. At the end of each chapter, there's a toolkit. So the same way you would go to your toolkit and you're not going to use a sledgehammer to hang a painting on the wall, you're going to figure out which tool is appropriate, right? That's how this book is set up. So you go through it, you figure out at the end of the chapter which tool is for you, and you utilize it based on your own judgment and what your individual needs are. And that's what I wanted it to do. And then finally, The subtitle is a new way to negotiate for anyone who's been underestimated. How many times have we been underestimated, right?
Yes.
You see that happening on a global stage right now,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Underestimate. You can have the resume, you can have all the skills, you can check all the boxes and still be misunderstood and still be underestimated. And so my book, even though on its face, to answer your question, how's doing, it feels like it's intended only for Black people. And I want to say, of course, I wrote a book for all readers. Of course, it's not just for Black people. It's for anyone who's been underestimated, misunderstood, anyone who wants to improve their negotiation skills, and anyone who wants to be who they are and get what they want. And the international book is also doing very well because there's no mention of race or anything like that. So it's
You know,
very
it's interesting that you say that, because my next question was going to be, when we talk about Black women have different experiences in different
Yes.
countries. An
Yes.
African Black woman may experience things a little bit more differently than, let's say, a Dutch Black woman,
That's right.
and versus a Belgian Black woman versus a French Black woman versus an American Black woman. So because you have one book that's kind of going to the other countries, I'm just wondering, are you getting different reactions based on the locations of the readers?
So far, no. And I will say that I've been to over 50 countries, and I've been to, I think, all the countries that you named and several countries in Africa. And I've interacted with Black women and Black people and people of color in many countries in different settings. And what I will say is that I know for a fact in Kenya it's doing very well, because I've spent some time in Kenya recently, and I also led a summit virtually in Kenya, and I continue to do work in Kenya. It's doing very well there. I know it's doing very, very well. And by the way, this book is doing well across different demographics, which is great because the way I feel about this title is that if you aren't Black, why wouldn't you read it? I mean, if you're an ally and you say you're an ally, why wouldn't you read it? If you aren't a woman, why wouldn't you read a book that says, so just basically kind of tapping into people's wokeness, if you will.
Yeah.
It's easy to put a Black square, on a social media platform to show solidarity. It's easy to say things like hashtag Black Lives Matter. It's easy to share stories about good things that are happening and also things that shock our sensibilities, especially when we hear about, continued police brutality, among other things. But what's interesting is to see in public who holds this book. And it's doing what I wanted it to do. In terms of Black women being different, what I love about this book is I've gotten a lot of love for Black women, a lot of love for people who feel seen and heard by this book, a lot of love from mothers who tell me across the board, regardless of race and ethnicity, that it's helped them advocate for their children. A lot of men who say, you know what, I've taken a lot of classes and this breaks it down. It's easy to digest and I get it. And so I feel like, for me, I just want to read a good book, don't you? Like, you want to read a good book. And if people are telling you it's a good book, then shoot, it's a good book.
It's a good time for this book right now, especially with a Black woman running for president.
Yes, yes. And maybe you've seen this too, but my social media has been flooded with different memes saying, we're going to have to take care of ourselves because we're going to be dragged over the next 100 years. We're going to be 100 days. We're going to be tested, in terms of people going after us. I've seen across Instagram and other platforms, the DEI candidate. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make this a political conversation, but what I'll say about that particular perspective is that's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the bias that is either explicit and we see it, DEI candidate, or the cognitive biases that people have that they may not be aware of that manifest, and we're just kind of like, whoa, did that just happen? Was it just me who saw that? Or did no one else understand that was a bias that was presented? And then how do you navigate that? How do you manage a bias that someone may not be aware of, and you still get what you need out of that interaction, that negotiation? Because think about the times that let's use the word triggered, right? Maybe something comes across condescending, or there's some ask of us that we think isn't appropriate, let's use that word, and we have to figure out how to navigate it. What tools do we have to utilize so that at the end of the day, we're still maximizing what we need, getting what we need and what we want? And you asked me this question, you asked me for some of the tools, and I'll say that one tool that I call the foundational 5 is key because it's something that you can go back to. It's 5 things, and there are 5 things that you need to know. Know what you want, know what you need, know how to actively listen, know how to communicate, and know when to close, right? And put listening before communicating, because often when we are preparing to enter a discussion, we are thinking about our talking points, right? We're planning on what we're going to say, but we're not always planning to listen.
That's true. And then often we, even when the interviewer is still talking or coming up with their next question, we're not really always listening. We're thinking about what we're going to say to respond.
Yeah, and people don't, I mean, that's 100% true. People don't listen for a variety of reasons. They're thinking about what they want to say to respond. Maybe they aren't listening because they don't like what's being said. And if we're being honest, perhaps we don't like the person who's talking, right? And so there's that bias within ourselves. We're like, I don't care what this person has to say.
Yes.
I'm not listening to them. I don't like this person. I don't agree with their perspective. And so you just sort of shut down. But what I found in my experience is that oftentimes we learn more about what the other person needs and wants and what's important to them, and where we get to figure out there any shared interests by listening to what they've prioritized telling us.
Absolutely. Now, do you teach workshops to go along with your books?
I do. I've been teaching for years. In fact, I had a fun conversation today. My first negotiation course was even before I went to law school, after I went to grad school to get my master's degree. And it was abroad. It was actually in Austria, the Czech Republic, and Hungary. And then went to New York and DC. And I teach negotiation workshops. And part of the reason I wrote this book, to get back to your earlier question, was because people would ask me, what other resources can you recommend? And I found myself, for lack of a better word, sort of Frankensteining, like putting together different things, right? So I would say, you can read a little bit of this, a page of that, but for the most part, I was writing it. I was writing sort of, this is what you should do based on I would ask questions. What are your needs, right? But because to me, negotiation is really not a science. I think it's more of an art, or I would say perhaps it's art and science, but it's more of an art, right?
I would say it's an art as well. So we did put your website in the chat. It is damalipeterman.com, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so is that where people can go to find out more information about your books and your workshops and so forth?
Yes, they can definitely go there. Damalipeterman.com has everything, and it sends you to Breakthrough ADR, which is my other company, where we have workshops. And then, of course, follow me. That's very important. I realize talking about asking for what you want. I never tell people, follow me. We're going to have, more information, and also giving out, free information and different tips and techniques on our Instagram. So
we did put your Instagram in the chat as well. Mary Evans, who's watching, she's been helping me out since Gwen wasn't able to stay on tonight. So Mary, thank you so much for your help. She's put your website in, as well as your Instagram and your Facebook.
Thank you so much. We love all of the platforms. I'm trying to get better at doing TikToks, but I'm not there yet. I haven't figured out my next move.
Don't even feel bad, because I have a TikTok and I was doing really well with it, and then I just keep forgetting to put I made 2 videos in the past 2 days, and I only put them on Facebook. I keep forgetting that I have a TikTok account, so I have to get better at that. So
We all do. We all do. Can I ask you a question? I know you're interviewing me, but I mean, can you talk about like your experience in negotiations and something that you found that you're really good at, and then something that you want to improve?
Well, it's funny that you ask about me. So my doctorate is in organizational leadership, and my dissertation was on the myth of the angry Black woman. And so some of
Wow.
the things that I was asking you about really came from my dissertation. about often Black women who are in leadership positions, especially when we get to higher level leadership positions. Sometimes we'll either lean into the stereotype because we think that's what they expect from us and that's how we're going to get what we want, or we lean so far from the stereotype that we don't come across as authentic because we're trying to be agreeable. And so I'm retired Army, and my last couple years in the Army, I was dealing with, I was the only Black female station manager for American Forces Network. If I disagreed with something, I was called argumentative. Even if I wasn't arguing, even if I didn't raise my voice, I didn't go along with the group, so I was automatically considered argumentative. So one thing for me that I've always tried to do was, how can I voice my opinion and explain why I differ from the group thing without it sounding like I'm angry or upset or being combative. So that's always kind of been my teeter-totter, so to speak.
Ooh, and I love, first of all, thank you for your service. I think that's amazing. And two, I love hearing about your dissertation, especially this myth of the angry Black woman. And what you'll find in my book is that I talk about how sometimes people, well, one, perception. Sometimes you cannot control someone else's perception of you, right? Because their perception is informed by different things, including their exposure, experience, education, etc. So you could be talking just like this, and then they're like, "Oh, you're yelling." I'm like, "Wait, who's yelling?" I'm not yelling, but that's how they're perceiving the interaction. Because you can't, no one can control how someone receives the message, receives and hears it. But I like what you're saying about, kind of like this sort of, it's kind of a paradox of two competing truths, right? And how people navigate the stereotype, and then what the stereotype threat is, which is, making sure that you teeter like really far away from, that stereotype, because it's a threat to you if that's not really where you land. And so I think it's interesting to hear about your dissertation, and I think it's especially important now, given the political climate, as we're seeing, a Black woman in the U.S. Being elevated to the highest office in the U.S.
Absolutely. And I remember Michelle Obama went through it as well. I mean, people were writing books about how mean she was, and she was a lawyer. She's a very straightforward person. And if you read her book Becoming, you'll notice she was always very straightforward. She said
Yes.
what was on her mind. And often that's considered combative to somebody who is not used to Black women speaking up for themselves or advocating for themselves.
It's so true. And I love that you mentioned Becoming. Excellent book. She is a lawyer. Kamala's a lawyer. I'm a lawyer. You have a doctorate. I feel like there's a theme of women who, I think there are a lot of women who speak up for themselves, who have this education that kind of pushes you towards being a good representative of yourself, but also vocal in a sense. And I think something that's interesting is, who are the naysayers, right? Who are the people who have these strong opinions? Who are the people who are putting you in a category of aggressive, where others are considered assertive, or
Yes.
and sometimes ambitious can even be like that word, right? And then deciding, look around you and see who your community of wonderful women and people are, and being grateful for people like you who are doing amazing work, serving your country, getting your doctorate, writing books. I mean, that to me is like chef's kiss, perfect and amazing. And that's exactly what we need, because Black authors do matter. But not only that, I think it's important to recognize that people communicate in different ways, and everyone isn't going to communicate the same way. And for people to sort of resist the judgment element of saying, and putting someone in a category based on a short period of time, because that happens too. Have you noticed that happens too frequently, where people are sort of put into a box and they're kind of left in that box? And
Yes.
hopefully what our stories are doing are hopefully encouraging people to be themselves, to be their best selves, right? And to feel comfortable doing that on a regular basis, but also not letting being authentic be a substitute for being thoughtful.
Amen. I mean, I think that's a great way, unfortunately, to end this interview, because we've already hit that 30-minute mark. But this was a great conversation. So I thank you for writing these books and bringing all of these different layers to light, because it's something sometimes we don't think about until we're in the thick of it. So
It's so
I'm glad that you wrote these books. I'm looking forward to reading them myself. I mean, because I'm still working federal government. I have a federal government job now. And fortunately, I work with some pretty great people. So I don't feel like I'm combating as much as I used to, but you never know when it pops up. So it's always good to have these tools in your toolkit.
absolutely. And thank you so much for your time, your interview. I would take a snapshot of us.
Okay.
I hope. I'm trying to do that. I did it. And I appreciate your time.
And we will be sending you a recording as well that you'll be able to use later.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And
All
I
right,
hope you
thank
enjoy
you.
some interviews.
All right, you take care. Have a great night.
Bye, Dr. Rhonda.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, we just finished speaking with Damali Peterman. Great interview. I really enjoy these types of conversations. Now, the next guest is Michelle Lindo, but I'm seeing a different name here, so I'm going to make sure this is her. Let's see what happens. Michelle?
Hello, how are you?
I'm great. Is this Michelle Lindo
Yes, it
Jackson?
is.
Okay, because I was so confused because I was looking at the name and I said, is that Michelle? Is there a different Michelle who popped in here?
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry. I'll rename it. I'm trying. It
No,
wouldn't allow me to
you don't have
rename
to
it.
do that.
Oh,
You
okay.
don't, you don't. I just
I
wanted to
was
make
trying
sure
to
that I
search
was
to
talking to
make
the right
sure I
person.
could rename it.
Well, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV. How are you tonight?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me, especially on the release day for the Bookshop Sisterhood. It means a lot to me. Thank you.
Yay, congratulations. I
Thank
love
you so
release
much.
day. So, well, now we just have to jump right in there. This is release date. And the name
Yeah.
of the book is
The Bookshop Sisterhood.
The Bookshop Sisterhood, because I was about to say something totally different. I think because the book that I was sent is A Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, yes. A Beauty and the Beast actually came out last week.
Oh,
And it just happened to go that way with my publisher. And so that came out last week, July 23rd. And today, the Bookshop Sisterhood, my first book with Mira, came out today as well. So yes.
oh, so look at you doing 2 books in 1 week. Okay.
Yeah, I know. It just worked out that way, where they moved up the release date for the Bookshop Sisterhood
Mhm.
so that I would be able to attend National Book Club Conference.
Oh, you
And
were going to
yes,
Atlanta.
yes, I'm going to the National Book Club Conference. And so I
I'm
was
so
able
jealous,
to
CR. I'm going next year. I've been trying to go for the past 2 or 3 years, and it always seems like something comes up and I can't go, but I'm going next year. So Curtis Bunn, just get ready for Dr. Rhonda because I'm coming.
I know, and he's such a very nice gentleman and so supportive of authors. So I was very
Absolutely.
excited that I got a chance to go.
Is
Yeah.
this going to be your first year going?
No, I have gone, I think I went already 2 or 3 times prior, but it's been quite a few years that I've gone. And so I'm very, very excited that I get to go because it's also their his 20th year doing this. So I'm so excited that I get to go this year as well. Yeah.
Well, I am happy to him. Congratulations to Curtis. What are you going to be doing out there? Are you just going to be signing, or are you going to teach any workshops? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm not doing any workshops. I think I have Saturday 2:30 to 3:30. So I'll do a little book talk, read a little bit, and hopefully sign some books. I'm hoping people will show up and I'll get to
Oh, of
sign.
course they're going to show up.
Well, there's a lot of heavy hitters there.
Yeah,
There are a lot of
there
heavy
are
hitters
always a
that's
lot
going
of
to be
heavy
there.
hitters going to the National Book Club conference. I mean, it's
Yes.
amazing in 20 years what he's done with this conference. I mean, this is like the conference that everybody who's anybody wants to go to, which is why I've been trying to go for the past couple of years, and I'm going next year.
And the one that I haven't made it to the National Book Black Festival. I haven't made it to that one yet. So I know
one in
you.
Houston?
Yeah, the one in Houston.
Yes, yeah. That's the National Black Book Festival.
Black Book Festival. Yeah, sorry, I said it wrong. Yeah. So I've been meaning to go there. So I'm hoping I'll get to go there next year or the year after. I'm looking forward to going.
Okay, well, I hope you do as well. I'd love to meet you in person.
I'm way shorter than I look. Everybody says that because I'm like 5 feet.
Oh, I'm only 5'3", so I'm not that much.
Oh, okay, so we'll do okay. We'll be okay then.
Yeah. So, all right, let's get started now. You have released 2 books in a week. So let's start with the first book. The beauty book. Beauty
and the Beast.
Yeah, A Beauty and the Beast.
Yes.
All right, so tell us what that book is about.
So basically, I love fairy tale retellings. And Special Edition approached me and said, it's our 75th anniversary, and we'd like you to write a smaller book, 50,000 words. And I was just like, oh, I know exactly the book I'm gonna tell with that short story. And it's a romance. And so it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it's about a recluse. You have Eden. She is the town recluse, and she grows roses. And then you have Mason, who was the television star, and he was just beastly behavior. So he lost his show, and so he comes back to Delaware, and he decides that he's going to help renovate Eden's house. And so of course the romance ensues. So you have that little beastly behavior, but everybody gets chance for second chance and for redemption. And so it was really, really a fun write. It was very much a lot of fun to write.
So would you consider it almost like a rom-com?
Maybe a little bit, but it still has I still like to get a little bit serious as well. So it may have a little rom-com feel to it. I'll tell you what though, is that when you purchase A Beauty in the Beast, so there's 2 ways that you can purchase it. You can purchase it as part of Rayanne Thane's, because she released the book Beach Beginning, and you can get it along with that book as a package deal. Or you can buy A Beauty and the Beast and you get a bonus read, and that is you get the it's called the 10-day bargain, and that was built around a couch. So that's a bonus story that's in A Beauty and the Beast. It's a bonus read. It's a surprise bonus read that's in there.
Okay, we like bonuses.
Yes, and that I think has a lot of rom-com feel. I got inspiration from The Princess and the Frog for that one, but it's centered around a couch, and it was just all because I was talking to my husband one day, and it was just, hey, have you thought of ever building a romance around an inanimate object? And I picked a couch, and then they came calling and go, can we get a very small read? So it's a smaller book, a novella. And I said, oh, I have just the concept for you. And they absolutely loved it. So it was originally, I was looking at a tentative title of The Couch, but the 10-day bargain, that's what that's about.
Okay, now how in the world do you build a rom-com around the couch?
I know, it was so much fun. So basically, the hero, his mom ordered the Amish to build this couch, and it's this unusual looking couch. And so his mom unfortunately passes, but then he goes into the store 6 months, and we have our heroine, and she was dying to buy that couch. And just as she bought it, he comes in to claim it. So they decide, okay, let's do 10 days here, 10 days there. And of course, the romance ensues. So it's all about finding the couch a home.
Oh, that sounds like a fun story.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, love it, love it. So my helper for tonight, Mary Evans, is putting your links in the chat. She's put your
Thank you, Mary.
Instagram, your Facebook, and I think I put your Amazon link to A Beauty and the Beast.
Thank you.
Now the other book was The Bookshop Sisterhood. I said it correct.
Yes, and
Yes.
there's my little bookshop sisterhood earrings to celebrate.
Wait a minute, now you are on the go because I've been meaning to mention you are in the car right now.
Yes, I was at Bethany Beach Books, doing a book signing from 6 to 7:30. And while I was driving home, you started to get nervous. I was just like, I rather just pull over and have set internet than be trying to race home. I didn't want to be late. So I said, you know what? This author is traveling tonight, so I'm pulling over.
Well, you know what? First of all, we
Tried
like
to do the
punctuality.
backgrounds, Rhonda. I tried to do the backgrounds, but it looked so weird that I said, okay, everybody's gonna know I'm in my car.
That's why I don't bother with the background anymore. Gwen has done a good job with the background, but she got one of those green screen things behind her.
Yes.
When I use the virtual background, it looks so weird. I just stopped using it. I said I'll just have to make my wall look decent or something.
And because I got this sleek hairdo, it didn't help. So I said, oh no, this look worse. I said, everybody will see me talking in my car. This is the author life. And you know what? I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to sign there and to come on to Black Authors TV. I just felt so blessed and to get the invite to come on. So I was just like, I'm not saying no, I'm gonna fight.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yes, so thank
Well,
you.
we are glad to have you here. We love talking with authors. This is actually our 4th anniversary evening.
Oh, congrats.
Yes, we have been doing this show consistently, interviewing 4 authors almost every week.
Wow.
We've done this since the pandemic. We started it in 2020 and it is now 2024.
Right. And I think I came on, was it a year or 2 ago? I remember coming before.
Yeah.
Right. But I think I came in more on the agenting side. I can't remember now, but I know I came before, but it might have been a couple years. I don't think it was last year. I didn't realize that you're 4 years in though. Congratulations. That's
I know
wonderful.
time flies, doesn't it though?
Yes.
It doesn't
Yes.
seem like it's been 4 years, but it's been 4 years.
Wow. Okay. That's wonderful. And the fact that you're able to get authors on every week. Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
Gwen wanted to be very intentional about doing the show every week. So there were only 2 weeks out of the year where we won't do a show. And I think one is election day. And the other one, I forgot the other one. It's a holiday. So sometimes during holidays, we won't have a show.
Veterans Day, maybe?
No, Veterans Day is on Thursday, I think.
Oh yeah, no, not yeah. Veterans is a Thursday. What am I saying?
Just whenever a holiday
Election Day makes
falls,
sense. Yeah.
yeah, on a Tuesday, depending on which holiday it is. Like if it's a holiday and nobody celebrates, that's something different.
Yeah. I actually think Christmas Eve is on a Monday, Tuesday. I think we are in a combination like that this year. And so is New
Oh.
Year's Day, I think, because for some reason I was looking at my calendar at work today and I was like, oh, it's like
see, New Year's Eve and Christmas Eve are both on a Tuesday.
Tuesday. Yeah. I
Yes.
noticed that just today, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to talk to Gwen about that. I don't think anybody's gonna be checking for us on Christmas Eve or New I don't know if y'all are watching. You let us know. Would you still want to watch Black Authors Matter TV on New Year's Eve and Christmas Eve? Tell us in the comments.
I know oh man, you're a professional. That's a great way to do it.
Oh goodness. So now with you promoting two books basically at the same time, how are you doing? I know you're just coming from a book signing now.
Yes, and at Bethany Beach Books, they were absolutely wonderful. Definitely, the Bookshop Sisterhood took, at the forefront because it was coming out today.
Mhm.
But because they knew I had a Beauty and the Beast, they also had copies of theirs. So before I left, whatever I wasn't able to sign, I signed them all for them, and they
Yeah.
said, that they're gonna have it out to try to, push through for me. So that's kind of how we handled it. I'm definitely more promoting the book substitute since it comes out this week. Um, but so last week I was more pushing a Beauty and the Beast. That's kind of how I decided to handle it. So each book gets her love, because I didn't want one book getting jealous over another book. So
Yeah, you can't have one
no
book
jealousy
overshadowing
between
the
my
other.
book children.
Yeah.
Now the Bookshop Sisterhood, what's wonderful about it is that it's actually my first book with Mira, and it's also my 10th book with Harlequin. So I just was, when I say I'm just excited, I'm really, really excited that, I get the opportunity to write what I love and get it out there. And hopefully others will like it as well.
Oh, awesome, awesome. Now, you mentioned Harlequin. I know when it comes to Harlequin, we talk a lot about the formula for writing
Yes,
romance novels. Now,
yes.
when you are writing for Harlequin, you have to stick to that specific formula. At
Pretty
least,
pretty much. It depends also on the imprint that you're writing for. So there are certain imprints that are definitely hotter and spicier.
mhm.
And like special edition, I get to write closed door,
Okay,
scenes. But I still get to be a little bit spicy because I do like a little spice. But so I guess you would say it's more sensual, but the lines are really specific. So, if you're writing for the medical imprint, it has to have a medical storyline. If I write for Love Inspired, it has to be inspirational almost, and like have a faith where the characters are characters of faith. So it just depends on, and what's wonderful is that the editors that you work with really get to know that line, so they know what will fit the line. um Also with the lines, yes, you follow the romance formula because it is a romance.
right.
You have to have them cute, you have to have them interacting together legitimately, that feels authentic. And then of course you have to have that dark moment, or I say black moment, but the dark moment, and it's that arc just continues, and then somehow something happens and they find their way back together to their
Yeah, I'm about to say,
we
they
create.
have to have some type of
Yeah,
conflict that kind of tears them
yes,
apart.
yes, we do. Always have to have that dark moment. And then all of a sudden they realize, I can't do without you. And I never get tired of it. And then comes the happy ever after, or as they say now, happy for now. So before, way back, most of the time, when you read the romances, they would end up with a marriage proposal. So that I think has changed. It's more
Okay.
like we're happy for now, or of course they have to declare I love you and all that, but it's more of a happy for now. There have been a few scenes that I have added, like a little wedding scene, or it just depends on the storyline that you're
Right.
doing. But yeah, so it works within all the different tropes for Harlequin. Now, when I'm writing for Mira, that's my woman's fiction. So the book Shop Sisterhood is actually woman's fiction. And so, I get to expand a little bit there. I get to write about four friends that are in a book club together, and they decide we're going to open a bookstore. And then all of a sudden, each friend hears four words that just upends their worlds. And
Oh,
so they have all these things that are going on while they're attempting to try to open a bookstore together. So it was just a lot of fun to write. So within the Mira line, you have that women's fiction, and or you might see thriller, or you might see fantasy, you know. So it's a little bit more open than
Have
the
a
other
favorite?
Harlequin imprints. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite genre you like to write?
Um, I love romance, but I do love writing the women's fiction because I get the chance to really, you know, open up their lives and get into, you know, relationships. I just I love women's fiction reads. Whether it be I love so many genres. I love historical fiction. I love commercial, you know, if it's well written,
There you
is
go.
going to, yeah, I'm reading it. So like Brianna Cole, I loved her books. Kennedy Ryan, these are newer folks, you know,
Right.
to me, new to me.
Yeah, well,
Um,
new to me too, because I got familiar with Kennedy Ryan pretty much from doing the show. I think we've
yeah,
interviewed her a couple of times, but her books have gotten very, very popular.
yes,
Um,
Farah Rashan. I mean, superb novelists, you know, writers. And then I have my usual, you know, Kimberly Lawson Roby, Victoria Christopher Murray, Rashonda Tate, Rhonda McKnight, Vanessa Riley, Vanessa Miller. You know, you could just keep naming names of people that you just enjoy reading.
right.
And a lot of them now have done historical fiction, or, you know, so look, you write it. I love the Mary Monroe's book that she wrote, you know, and Sadiqa Johnson,
Are you
you
talking
know.
about the series?
Yes,
Mrs. Wiggins series?
yes, that oh my God, Wiggins, Mrs.
Yes,
Yes.
Mrs. Wiggins
Oh,
series. I just read
yes.
the third in that series, so I guess
Oh,
I'm
you
gonna
read
have
it?
to
I
go
haven't
ahead
read
and
the
find
third
the
yet.
fourth
I've been writing. Oh, I
one.
haven't read it. I read the first one, Mrs. Wiggins,
Mrs.
and
Wiggins was really
I
good.
oh, I was glued. I was like, oh, I was the drama, everything. She was something else. So, you know, I love that for us. I love that we get a chance to expand, and so we can tell our stories, you know. But
Yeah.
I do in particular, I love historical fiction, you know. But I'm glad that I have the chance myself to write, you know, my commercial women's fiction. That I love that space. I love I just love when you get, especially those that are based off a concept or a show that you've seen, you know, something
Yeah.
like that. Oh, it's already gonna like zing me. I'm like, oh, I definitely know I want to read this. Yeah.
So how many books do you have now?
Oh my gosh, you know, I'm so embarrassed
You
because
haven't counted them.
I should know the number, but I'm saying I know I'm at 20 something. So you know what? While I was at the signing, I got asked that 3 times, and I said, that's it. When I get home tonight, I am going to count. Because you know what happens? Um, being, you know, in the professional world yourself, that we have books written that didn't come out yet.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm always losing my count. So I know I have 2 that's meant to come out eventually, but published, I have to count because I write as Zoe Marie Jackson and Michelle Lindo-Rice. So I have
Okay.
3 out as Zoe Marie Jackson, and I have 20 something as Michelle Lindo. So I have to count them all. So that way, when people ask me, I will not be caught off guard and not know.
No, now
I do know though. I do know that the Bookshop Sisterhood is my 10th book with Harlequin because they told me.
okay, okay. Now, and I was actually going to ask you, so with having 2 books that basically being released at the same time, was this a case where you just had one written and you were still working on or you know you had finished one and worked on the second one, or were you
Yes.
trying to work things out with maybe Harlequin while you were working on the other book, A Beauty and the Beast?
So, yeah. So the Bookshop Sisterhood was actually finished before A Beauty and the Beast. The Bookshop Sisterhood, I believe, if I'm remembering right, may have been finished about 18 months ago. And
Mhm.
so, but there were different things that occurred. So they moved the dates a little bit here and there. And then it was actually moved to August, but because, I was just like, I'd love the chance to attend the National Book Club Conference. And so they moved up the date of the release so that I could go there with a released book.
Well, we have a
So that's
publisher
why
who
that
works with
occurred.
us. Well,
And that's why that happened.
Mary Evans said, you're hard to keep up with. You are busy.
Oh my gosh. You know what? I wish I could disagree, but she's absolutely spot on true because as you know, having had me on the show before, one of the things that's in my heart is maybe it's because I'm an educator, but if I can help other authors you know, start their literary career, I try my best to. I may not be the best at it, but I try my best with what I learn and what I know to help others along. So I do literary agenting as well.
Oh,
It's not it takes quite a few years in my opinion. No, and also in my experience. So, don't quit the day job. And so yes, I am always juggling, but I have a wonderful support system. I have my husband who's a great support to me,
wonderful.
and I have a personal assistant who is an amazing support to me that helps me and go, remember you have this interview.
I love it. I just hired my assistant a few months ago, and he is on me. Rhonda, don't forget you have a meeting today. Or Rhonda, don't forget you have to answer this email. I'm like, I don't know what I'd do if I didn't have him doing that for me.
Yeah, so and also too, like I interact with the readers, but sometimes just to post certain things for me, that's where the PA can really help you, like
Yeah.
post for you, and then you get a chance then to just go back and interact with the reader, which is the fun part to do.
Absolutely.
But it can be a lot to manage without a little help from your friends or family. Yeah.
Very true, very true. And so I gotta send a shout out to my helper today, Mary Evans, who has been posting all of your social media. So she's posted your Instagram, she's posted your Facebook, your website. What else did you post? Oh, she even posted your Goodreads.
Yes. Thank you.
I think
Yes.
she
You're
posted two
talking
different Goodreads.
you're talking about somebody that is naturally introverted and very, I would be my little world reading and writing. And but this is not the age that we live in. You have to readers want to talk to you. I remember my first time ever going to a book retreat, and and a reader said to me, we don't buy your books unless we know you. And I learned, and she goes,
Yeah.
learn that. And so she taught me that. And so I started opening up, and I love interacting with readers. That I think is the fun part. I've had someone write me and go, hey, you wrote about this character having this illness and I have it. And, you know, uh, they'll either go, you have it just right, and they will tell you the truth if you have it just wrong. But that's what's great about being a reader. You can share your opinion. You can say, I didn't like this book at all. And I'll just say, thank you so much. I appreciate your honest
At least
and
they took the time to say something.
yeah, you know, yeah.
Well, I've got to say, I'm really enjoying talking with you. This has been a great conversation, but unfortunately, we have hit that 30-minute mark.
Yes.
So,
Well, thank you so much for having me. And to everyone listening, please, please, please pick up a copy of the Bookshop Sisterhood. It came out today. Follow me on my social media. Reach out. I do respond. I like to interact with readers, as I said several times before, and I appreciate the opportunity to come on to Black Authors TV. Thank you so much for
and we
having me.
appreciate having you. Thank you so much for the great conversation. We will be supporting these books. And just as Mary said, follow the authors, follow Michelle, because we've got to support these books. I mean,
Yes,
this is
please do.
this is a flex. You have been released with 2 different publishers in 1 week.
Yes, we're working together to make sure that doesn't happen again, though.
Well, congratulations and best wishes to you as you travel to Atlanta for the National Book Club Conference.
Yes. Thank you so much.
I
Bye.
think you have a great night. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
All right, that was Michelle Lindo-Rice. So hopefully you weren't confused, because I was at first if you said Michelle Z. Jackson. She writes under 2 different names. She also writes under Zoe Marie Jackson. So that's where the Zoe or the Michelle Z. Jackson came from. But now we are bringing on our final guest for the evening. We're bringing on Jewell Parker Rhodes and Kelly McWilliams. Hello. What? Now, Miss Jewell, are you gonna let us see you?
Hi, how are you? It's nice to see you,
Wonderful.
wonderful woman. Nice to see
Great
you,
seeing
Kelly.
you. Well, first of all, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV. I'm sorry that you missed Gwen, but unfortunately, well, fortunately or unfortunately, she's going to be singing with her choir for you've heard of the Congresswoman whose name I cannot remember right now, but she just recently passed.
The past, yes, yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
Sheila
so
Jackson Lee. Sheila Jackson Lee. And
Yeah.
so her funeral is going to be at Gwen's church, and Gwen is going to be singing with the choir. So she was not able to make tonight. So, but she does send her apologies for not being here tonight.
Not at all. I mean,
Yay.
basic loving that love that she's giving to you know, the Congresswoman's family and to the memory of her. I mean, that's more important than anything having to do with what we're doing tonight. So she made the right choice, and I really do honor how the fact that we've had so many women, Black women political leaders, and that we might even have a Black woman political president. So it's like that's important work for us to be doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is an exciting time to be a woman right now. I'll tell you that. A black woman, white woman, whatever. I mean, this is just an exciting time.
Yes, true.
And our health right now is on the, I'm not going to try to turn this into a political conversation, but our health right now is on the platform. So it's really important that we get out and vote. And that's all I'm going to say about politics. Make sure that you vote. Whatever way you're going to vote, make sure you vote.
Just do it.
Yes. So
Do
now,
it.
with that being said, let's talk about these books. Yes, Soul Step. So tell us about Soul Step. First of all, I love the cover. It's so eye-catching, beautiful colors. I love the action that's depicted on the cover. So can you tell us about it? What is Soul Step?
Well, let me just start real quick, and then I'm gonna hand it over to Kelly.
Okay.
We've got to compliment Brianna Uchendo, who did the artwork. She's fabulous. And in fact, when she was selected to do this, she was an undergraduate
Wow.
in art school. Yes. And just before this book, she did another book. And she's now the John Steptoe, you know, Best Young Illustrator Award-winning person. You know, so a lot of good things are happening to her. But what I really appreciated, besides the color, is the intergenerational, because Black people go mother to daughter, grandmother to mother to daughter, and down through the generations. So I love this image of, you know, a Black mom and her daughter, and the joy and, you know, the faith and the love they have among one another.
Yes.
So when you have an illustrator, they bring their own imagination. So for me, Brianna she's my hero. She is a shero. Kelly, you can take it away. I love this color.
No, it's true. Brianna really brought this story to life, but we started working on the writing of this book, Soul Step, back in 2020, I think it was. So it took many years. Picture books can kind of take a long time to develop. And one of the things we wanted to write about was, growing up in sort of majority white neighborhoods as a mixed race family. And I present as white and my brother presents as a Black man, and a Black boy at the time. We had a lot of, it was just like microaggression central. Like it was really like, going to the grocery store, people would be like, is Jewell Parker Rhodes the nanny? Dr. Rhodes was not.
Like, who was this Black woman with this white girl? Are you okay, little girl?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Siblings, you guys don't go together. That can't be your sister.
He can't be
your
that can't be
brother.
your sister. I know my brother used to cry because someone told him we couldn't be related. Oh, you must be adopted.
The audacity, and in particular of adult people who would have that audacity, and then the way they would celebrate my husband, who we've now been married, it's going on 40 years, that oh, it's so nice of you to adopt a little Black boy, and that's that discussion in the book came from that sense of, as a family, biracial, multiracial, we had to make sure our familial love was tight enough to keep that block of all those microaggressions away from us. And the greatest experience about writing this book was that I learned so much more from my kids' point of view, things that I didn't know that was going on, that Kelly had been feeling and Evan had been feeling. And it was eye-opening. And just so y'all know, we are all as thick as thieves. But go ahead, Kelly, I interrupted you.
But yes, so it's really about a little girl, seeing that her mother is experiencing these microaggressions wherever she goes. Do you really belong in this neighborhood? And there's the man right now.
I saw him sneak up behind you.
He's taking the dogs out.
But a little girl really trying to understand, like, how does her mother keep her head up high when she's living in this neighborhood, going through this life? And as kids, me and my brother, we had the same kind of questions. And what we saw was, well, Dr. Rhodes was making art. She was writing books. She was doing activism, spreading love, spreading joy. And that's what kept her spirit high. Now, Jewell came to me in 2020 and she said, I want to write a book about a step team, about step dancing. And so we came up with the idea of this mother who what she does, instead of writing or celebrating in other ways, like for some people, it could be going to church, it could be finding community. What she does is she puts on her stepping boots and steps. And so the little girl then wants to learn about, well, what does that mean? And why do you do that? And who else does that? And it takes the mom takes her on this journey with, all of her aunties and sorority sisters and Dr. Jameson, the professor, explaining to her what step really is and how its roots go all the way back to Africa, and how it really popped like with the HBCUs, and how it's all like this interwoven, interconnected history that can also help her as a young Black girl keep her head high when things get hard.
Now I'm gonna say, when you all sent your form in, Ms. Jewell said that you were the secret sauce behind the book, but
she was.
We have a lot of good ideas that came from Ms. Jewell. So what's going on?
Yes, she's our idea lady. So
yes, I had the idea because I used to dance a lot. And while I did not have the privilege of going to HBCU, I went to like this very specialized drama school. I was a dancer, and the way in which the African diaspora and the Black dancing was so important to my mental health, so important to me learning about my culture and keeping my head held high. So even just the other day, I was doing Jackson State University and showing Kelly, did you see them winning their, the national championship for the band? But anyway, so I had the idea that I wanted to celebrate, because I had studied how even among Africans who were in the diamond mines in South Africa, they had on the gumboots and they would stomp and step, and that's how they would communicate to one another and keep their agency in a very oppressive situation, and then how it moves across to America, and the slaves, the same thing. Y'all can't talk, you can't whisper, but they could use their bodies and make sounds and celebrate themselves, and they could send messages. And then how it evolves with the HBCU, particularly during the civil rights struggle, really using it as a tradition, a sisterhood, a brotherhood, in a way to uplift themselves. So that was what I wanted to say, but I couldn't do it. Writing a picture book is hard. Give me 400 pages, I can do it. Having like 20 pages with like 10 words on each page, forget it. And guess who had given me
You were a
break of God?
novelist.
Yes, Kelly. Kelly had a toddler. And so I was ready to give the money back and tell, even though I think I can do everything, I met my match. I cannot write a picture book that I thought that I could be proud of, that would do something that was really special and unique. And yet Kelly came to the rescue because she was writing the picture book. Yeah, so go on, Kelly, tell her how you
Oh, that's true. I mean, the way that this really went down is that Jewell called me and she was complaining about this book, Stole Step, which she'd sold years ago. And she was so interested in the idea and she really wanted to bring it to life for the publisher, but she just couldn't get the rhythm right. Picture books are almost kind of like poetry. Like every word counts. It is really annoying. I also write novels and I think picture books might be harder, like a lot harder.
And it's interesting that you say that, because on the outset, thinking about like, oh, this should be easy, just a few words on each page, but you have to make it make sense. And you have
That's right.
You start coming up with all these ideas. Okay, well, I have a few words, but no, I have to put this in. I have to put this part in. Next thing you know, you have a whole 5 paragraph, and it was only supposed to be 10 words.
Yes, you
all of
described it.
Exactly. No, it was perfectly described. And all of the emotion that a novel transfers, like a picture book has to do that too, just with fewer words, less space, less complexity, but it still has to pack that emotional punch. So anyway, what happened was I had a 3-year-old. I was reading a lot of picture books, and Grandma Jewell called me on the phone and she said, I think I'm going to have to give them the money back. And I said, we're not giving any publishers any kind of money back. Like, we don't do that anymore. We got a grant, baby.
Oh my goodness.
So I said, no, we'll figure this out. And she said, well, do you want to try and take a crack at it? And I was in that moment in my life where I was like sort of turbocharged and give me all the work. I'm no longer there. You guys.
Yeah, we changed over time. And I was like, I don't write for money. So you want your money back here, that I only write the books that I want to write, and then when I came up, I cannot do this. And then I remember Kelly was like channeling all the young people who are starting their families, having the new baby and thinking about that kind of stuff. And so she had a hunger in a different kind of way, which was so appropriate, and she says, no, I'm going to get involved in that. And she saved the book. I helped edit it, but she also, the rhythm, like, hey, Kelly, should we do it? Stomp, clap, flip, flat, go hard, snap. It's like, yes. And when we go to schools, we'll get the kids to stand up, and do a little step movement with us. And sometimes they'll even start doing the refrain and singing it back. And to me, that perfectly just matched her having that sense of rhythm, having that sense of, my granddaughter, her daughter there, but so I give credit to my daughter, all power to her. And I think there are things that I learned that well, certainly I can't do everything, even if I want to. And in particular, the ways in which a woman, depending upon the stages of her life, has access to different kinds of sounds and different kinds of rhythms. So I could have the idea, but I had gone beyond that point where I could sort of like really translate it back to a 3-year-old,
That's right. And meanwhile, every other word out of my mouth was like chicka chicka boom boom.
Yes, chicka chicka boom boom. A told B at the top. Yes.
So cute. So cute. So now it looks like you will be traveling. I don't know if it's going to be you, Ms. Jewell, if it's going to be the both of you, but you're going to be going to New York City, and you're also going to the DC Open Book Foundation.
Yes, and actually, I will be joining for some of that with Brianna. You know, Clara starts second grade, for heaven's sake.
Wow.
That's my
And-
daughter, yeah.
Yeah, Clara, my grandbaby. And then Kelly and I will meet up for the Portland Book Festival at the beginning of November. We're also going to be at the Children's Book World down in Los Angeles. So it's kind of like, you know, us like taking pieces. So sometimes me and Baranas, sometimes me, and then sometimes me and Kelly, because there's so much to do. And one of the things I also want to say is that we're giving away, oh, Kelly, do you have the t-shirts to people like who have step teams? We're giving away free copies of the book, as well as t-shirts, a say soul step. But Kelly and I both agree that, you know, it's nice to sell a book, but it's also really nice just to make sure a child has a book.
Give
And
back.
so when you see those elementary school kids all the way through college, but particularly the young ones, you know, saying, you know, I am me, and, you know, yeah, and doing the step routine, it's like we wanted to honor them in their strength and celebration. So actually, if anybody in your audience, you know, if you want to email me, jewellparkerrhodes@gmail.com, I am sending out tons of books and tons of t-shirts. So yeah, Kelly and I kind of like, I don't know what it's like.
To be with the kindergartners. I mean,
Yeah.
and I realize, like, I write for young adults, I write for teenagers. They're
Yeah.
all right.
They're all right.
No,
Just
we
a
love the
baby.
teenagers. We love the teenagers. We love the middle graders. But when
Yes.
you're walking into those rooms of kindergartners, you know, which I hadn't done in a while, the love is just enormous. So we do have these t-shirts, and you can also check out at Kelly and McWilliams on Instagram. I'll post pictures of the t-shirts, and we're happy to send a book and a t-shirt to any
Thanks,
child
Kelly.
who needs a book.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now,
Yeah.
I hope our audience was listening and that they will take you all up on that offer, because I think that's wonderful. I mean, so it's a book and it's a t-shirt. You don't happen to have
Yeah.
a t-shirt with you, do you?
I see.
You
You
know,
can tell how well
mine is
prepared we are.
inside my house with my family.
Yeah, I'll go grab them.
I'll post a picture of it tomorrow for sure.
Okay.
And also, I
Okay.
can go grab one too. I can go grab
But you
one.
want to go grab one?
Yeah, I'll go grab
Only
one.
if you want to.
Oh, you guys are awesome. Well, while Ms. Jewell's going to look for t-shirts, Mary Evans said that picture books aren't as easy as most imagine, and she was glad that you two collaborated on this project. # salute.
Oh, thank you so much. I was a little nervous about the collaboration, but it was a joy.
Yeah, I got to know
Sure.
my daughter even better. So here it is. Soul Step. And then it has who wrote it, Soul Step. And then on the back, catch the rhythm. Feel it in your soul.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, so I will pack this up. And for some people that say they have step teams and things like that, then we send a lot more, because this was a labor of love. And what's really nice about what HBCU schools did is that they carried and enlivened and brought out this tradition that has been, you know, with us as a people for, you know, time immemorials. Thank you very much. But then to have it moved down to elementary school, and you see a 5 or 6-year-old with a fierceness and that sort of assertiveness, you know, it's sort of like, that is such a beautiful, beautiful thing. That's the miracle. So we are, in particular, we love everybody who steps, but we do have a special heart for the, you know, a 6-year-old singing her voice and using her body and making music and making a statement, because you can see how that's going to inform how they grow, how they live. Woo-hoo, good job.
That's right. It's a practice of strength, and you can start young now. And I think even on Abbott Elementary, there was an episode about a step team for elementary school.
I love Abbott Elementary.
Me too.
Me too.
Now, were either of you in a sorority or on a step team?
No.
We both wish we were, but no.
Well, I was not in a sorority because I went to a very specialized drama school.
You
So
did
I
say
was
that, yeah.
dancing, and I used to do Afro-Cuban dance, and then have kept that as part of my life. And as I became a novelist, particularly if you read Voodoo Dreams, there's a lot of the dance, the African dances that were done in Congo Square. And even to this day, to me, the body, I can't live without the sense of the body motion. But I kind of respected so much what I didn't have, the HBCU experience. And, even when you think about Kamala Harris and the sisterhood that she has. So it's sort of like I won't speak for you, Kelly. I had a yearning because in theater, sometimes it can be like really kind of crazy and super competitive, but that yearning of us, Howard, Spelman, Morehouse, that yearning of what I always felt that I needed more in my life, this community, these people. So the way that I do it or try to do it is through my words, because I'm always writing about social activism, social justice, and writing about what's the history. Like I was the first to write about the Tulsa Race Massacre. It was my second novel, Magic City, and they brought it up on the 100th anniversary. So I was in search of a lot of things. But Kelly, if we were going back, girl, you would be
I
going
know,
to
and you know we would.
HBCU.
Well,
We would,
especially
yeah.
as a white passing and sort of white presenting person, like I think that I did dream about that, and I have my latest novel, Your Plantation Prom Is Not Okay. The main character.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. It's a little bit of a whopper. I'm sorry.
That's timely.
Yeah, white people having proms on plantations or weddings. Yeah,
I know. But my main character, she's choosing between, her dad wants her to go to an Ivy League school, but she settles on, for her heart, with the activism that she's doing, she needs to go to an HBCU. And that was my sort of little moment of, that wishful thinking, and this book very much, it's about wishing for sisterhood and setting an example for young people about how they, all of these kids of color, a lot of them, we can just look around and start asking aunts and uncles, what you're up to. Maybe it's not STEP, but all of these traditions intersect, and we all have something that's keeping us afloat. And so learning to ask those questions, to hear those stories, is how you build that community for yourself.
Well, and it's also, this is my praise. I was gonna say,
no, I was just saying very quickly, Mary's asking for your IG handle so we can follow you on Instagram.
Yes, I am at Kelly M. McWilliams.
I think I'm at, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think I'm at Jewell P. Rhodes. I'm not so good at it, but you can go to me on X or Facebook. But I did want to give just a shout out to men, and also in the way that we put in our book, women, that the African American diaspora community, it's always been about raising a child by community, that you might or might not have your parents or your grandparents, but you had your aunts, the woman across the street who looked out for you, and right now people are calling me Auntie Jewell because I'm trying my best to look out for today's youth too. And that community tradition of our people, that we all look out for our children's welfare. And that's also what the book captures. So the mother, daughter, but you don't need, it's kind of like, the JD, well, it's no politics, okay? You don't need to be the actual mother to mother and nurture a child. And that's what Black women and men have done for centuries. Hallelujah. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. I really hope I have a chance to see you when you come for the DC Book Open Book Foundation. Are you actually coming to DC, or is that something?
Yes, I am. I'm going to be there for several days. So I'll be there visiting. And the Open Book Foundation, in case you aren't, well, you're probably aware of it because your audience isn't aware of it. They primarily send authors and illustrators to Title I schools. And when they send you to the school, they work with the teachers and the curriculum, and the students have all read your book. They've all been given a free copy of your book. And rather than having hundreds of people that you talk to, they give you small classrooms so you can have really good conversations with these kids. It's a program that's exceptional, so so well done. And literally anytime they've asked me to do anything, I've said yes, because you can see that the impact reaches a very deep level. So yes, I'm gonna be there.
Wonderful. I hope I see you because, you know, I live in the DC area myself. So I would love to be able to see you when you're here.
I would love that too. And I'm going to be at Politics and Prose as well, but if I don't see you this time, what you can do is just invite us back some other time. My in-laws live in the DC area. So it's sort of like,
say less. I might have to have you all come for the Black History Month event in February.
oh, we would love to come. And I've actually have a new book out coming, but it's really about the Oklahoma Land Rush. I always thought just white people did the Oklahoma Land Rush, but a lot of people were ex-slaves. A lot of people who had to go through Juneteenth in Texas went and they claimed their land. And there actually was a movement to start like a whole Black community with its own Black mayor. And then what I know in my adult novel writing is that some of them built that town of Deep Greenwood only to have, decades later, it to be bombed from the air. So it's sort of like but the earlier children's Oklahoma Rush land story that still connects to my adult Tulsa massacre of, called Magic City. So yeah, I'd love to talk to you. Just call us, and Kelly and I will come. Right?
But that book that's coming out is called Will's Race for Home. I think you could probably pre-order it pretty soon. It's one of her best ever for middle grade readers, in my opinion. So
well, you better advocate for your mama. I love it.
I was like, I didn't hear the title.
Oh, I know. She checks. She's making sure I keep it professional and keep it. Yeah, and I actually feel the same about my daughter. That one of the things that she does is she follows, I think, a path that's somewhat similar to me, and that she's always writing. She writes more in close about sisterhood and about siblings, but it's still layered in the context of social justice and how identity can be shaped by colorism and how it shouldn't be shaped by colorism and how people can rise above that. So she does historical fiction, dystopian fiction, some horror, and Your Plantation Prom Is Not Okay. It's just downright funny. It's kind of snarky. It's like,
oh, you mean so it's kind of a comedy almost?
How can you describe it?
This moment's, I guess, sort of a dark comedy. It's from the perspective of Harriet, who lives next door to this plantation where all these fancy celebrity weddings are going down. And her way of dealing with it is kind of like to be that snarky teenager and that rebellious teenager. So she's always looking at things with the side eye and has to kind of still learn also how to grieve the mother that she lost. And so there's some jokes in there.
And she also has a relationship with the woman who's having all these weddings and proms, the young daughter. So you also see, the education of this young white girl. It's like, not giving them a time of day, and yet them coming together and making that sense of agency of communal understanding. So it's not just to have a different perspective, and of course, the perspective of no, you don't have a party on sacred ground, but to be able to have a perspective that you could also get somebody else to share it with you and finally understand it so it stops. Kelly, tell me, how many plantation museums actually are there left in the U.S.?
There's three. So there's three plantation museums that tell the history of slavery from the perspective of the enslaved. There are many more.
Is one, right?
Sorry?
Whitney
yes, Whitney Plantation is one, and that's the book that that's the plantation that this was based on, and that I went to visit for research, sort of imagining, so like just that general area. But there's Whitney Plantation is one. There's McLeod, and there's a third one. But most plantations that you go to that offer tours will tell you the history from the perspective of master enslavers. So they'll say,
and the romanticized version of it. Yeah.
That's right. Gone with the wind, So what you get is a sanitized history at best and a really disrespectful history, and so what the Whitney Plantation is doing is utterly groundbreaking. And
I'm proud to say that the Whitney Plantation actually did a small sponsorship for my Black History Month program a few years ago, back in 2020. you know, because the world shut
Yes.
down right after that event.
Yes, 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 yes,
They are great, great people over there. I really like them.
Yeah, no,
absolutely.
they're marvelous. The work that they're doing is so marvelous.
Now we only have about a minute left, but I have to ask, Kelly, when did you decide that you wanted to follow in your mother's footsteps and be an author?
Oh goodness! Well, when I was young and she was writing, she used to put up this sign on her door that said, "Kids keep out. I'm writing."
You know what? I should have made a sign like that when I was.
It's never too. Listen, it's never too late. You can keep the pets out, the husbands out, whoever. And I just thought, wow, whatever's going on back there must be real, the real deal magic. So that summer that I saw that sign, I went and I got typing and knew that I wanted to sort of do the same thing. I don't know. It seemed natural.
Awesome.
But she opened all the doors.
I know you're
No,
proud.
Oh, I'm very proud. And Kelly, she wrote her first novel when she was in the 8th grade. It's called Doormat, and it was published by Random House. But see, for me, I didn't know Black people wrote books till they were 19. And it took me 10 years to finally feel that I had a community because I was too scared and feel connected. So the other thing about, having somebody else do it in front of you and seeing that and opening up doors, it's so much, in a sense, easier because I didn't even know I could do it and then doubted if I could do it, where she felt, oh, I'll do it. And then she used to tell me, oh, mama, you're too slow. Get on with it.
Well, that was just what women of color did, was they wrote books, but they put the sign on the door and they wrote books.
I love it. I love it. Well, ladies, I really enjoyed our conversation. This brings us to the end of another episode of Black Authors Matter TV. And I just want to thank you for joining me tonight. And like I said, I know that Gwen would be here if she could, but I will send her your love.
Yes, and I hope to see you in DC.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, guys, we have come to the end of another episode of, another episode of Black Authors Matter TV. I want to thank you all for your support. Thank you for 4 amazing years of Black Authors Matter TV and interviewing some amazing authors. We've gotten to know so many great people. I want to thank Gwen for inviting me to take this journey with her. This has just been wonderful. And thank you all. This has been a great night. I want to thank all of you for your interaction. I hope to see you guys next week for another episode of Black Authors Matter TV. And then also join me tomorrow night for a special version of the Horizons Author Lounge, where I'll be talking with Dr. Asante about, we're going to talk politics. It's going to be an hour of just getting real about it. So I hope to see you guys there. You can message me if you'd like more information on that. But that's all we have for tonight. I am your host for tonight, Dr. Rhonda Lawson, and I will see you next week. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in, and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.